Tuesday, May 5th, is Foster Care Awareness Month, Judicial and Institutional Services. Minister Brew joins Ambulance Department during Jouvert Morning Parade. CPS in solidarity with 2026 VWA. Plans vaccination outreach for May, June, July. Invites students' parents to check vaccination records. Minister Grisha Haliger Martin responded to MPs in a public meeting of Parliament. From the island, Sint Maarten, this is SXM Daily News for April 28, 2026. To celebrate the J&IS, which stands for Judicial and Institutional Services, is a key foundation in Sint Maarten focused on restoring communities, rehabilitation, and providing justice-related social services. They will be hosting an event to raise awareness to interested ones who wants to become a foster parent. The event will be held on Tuesday, May 5th, at the Bel Air Community Centre in Cay Hill, where cultural performances and other information will be shared from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Entrance for adults is $10 and children is $5. On Friday, SXM Daily News spoke with Miss Lysandra Pantoflet, Miss Bergley Lumain, and Miss Cassandra Wilson, who are working at the foundation and is organizing the event.
Basically, this event was conducted in order to raise awareness about the need for foster parents on St. Martin. Not only that, it was created so that J&IS, the foundation itself, can let the community know like exactly what they're doing, like what they're all about, you know, and also distinguish what exactly that they do.
Is very necessary, especially when it comes to placement of foster children. We actually put out a call to action a few weeks ago for crisis placements, because we've had recently a lot of cases where we needed placement right now, and we had no one. So we're really looking forward to this event where we're able to reach the community, people within the community who are able to offer that space, that you know, that love, that care, that we are not able to provide.
Right.
You know?
And I think that there's a lot of like stigma associated with the term foster care.
Yes.
And so this event, we want to be able to speak towards any stigmas, any misconceptions that anybody within the community may have. Because a lot of people have a lot of thoughts regarding foster care, right?
Yeah.
I can't do this, you know, I'm a single parent, this, that, and the third.
I don't want to raise somebody
else's child. You
Right,
know?
there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to that, and so we want to be able to use this event in order to clear up any of those misconceptions. And what better way to touch the community than to use performances, right? Because that's the way to any human being's heart. So.
and food.
Yeah,
And food.
yeah.
But also the performances will be done by the youth.
Correct.
You know, so we're engaging the youth as well during this event, where they'll be able to tell stories, through their dances, through their singing, you know, so that we can reach the community in a different way instead of just having a speech, you know.
Right.
So we really want to engage them and you know, in a fun way.
Correct.
Yeah. So this foundation was actually established in 2002. We started out as SGIB, so Stichting Judiciële Inrichtingen Boven-Winse-Eilanden. And then we changed, I believe, I can't remember which year. Yeah, after 10
So then
to
it became
SGIS. And then we recently rebranded 2 years ago, and we are now J&IS, so Judicial and Institutional Services. Now currently we have about 60 to 65 children currently in our system. To some that might seem like a lot, but what we always say is the cases that come to us are only the cases that are reported. So we believe that there can be a lot more cases out there that have not been reported and that have, are falling through the cracks. So currently about 65.
We have the New Start Foundation. That ages from 0 up until 12.
Yes.
And then we have the youth residential home that is under us.
Yes, so the JNIS Youth Residential Home.
And they house the ages from 13 until 17, 18.
From baby to teen, we get them at any age, at all ages. And how a child gets into foster care, there are various reasons. It's from physical abuse, serious neglects, other serious concerns, through schools, as schools and people of the community can report these concerns to the courts of guardianship, and that's how we get our cases, because it's then court mandated by the judge, and then it's sent to us.
Yeah, so basically it's whatever situation that makes the child's circumstances unsafe for them to go back into their
once their environment or there are things that are factors that are harming their safety or put it into jeopardy or in question, then that's when they become under protective measure, and then they end up in foster care. So there are two kind of ways where they're in foster care, where they're removed from their home and then placed in the foster homes that we have, but there's also that they remain in their home situation, and then we work with the family,
we
offer support like that. Okay, so we currently don't have the total number, statistics of that, because technically St. Martin does not have an official adoption agency. Our process is more so fostering, where a child goes to a foster parent or a foster family, and then after a year, then we look into appointing the foster parents with the legal guardianship of that child. And should indeed the parents relinquish their rights, and that goes through the court of guardianship, then we're talking about adoption. But I can say that we have had, I believe, two recent adoptions in the past 2 years.
Yes.
We will have more tomorrow, a broadcast of SXM Daily News with Miss Lysandra Pantaflet, Miss Burgley Lumain, and Miss Cassandra Wilson. The Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labour, Richinel Brugge, joined the ambulance department early this morning to carry out a shift in support of the Jouvert morning parade. The experience provided a first-hand look at the event from the perspective of ambulance personnel, highlighting a different dimension of frontline response. While the minister has previously served alongside VKS and police officers, this opportunity offered insight into the critical role ambulance teams play in monitoring, responding, and providing immediate medical care during large-scale public events. The Jouvert Morning Parade remains one of the island's most vibrant cultural celebrations, attracting large crowds and requiring careful planning to ensure public safety. Minister Brugge extends his sincere appreciation to all frontline workers who were on duty during the event, including ambulance personnel, police officers, firefighters, and all other emergency and support services who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure a safe celebration. As a former frontline worker myself, I understand the dedication, long hours, and sacrifices that come with this responsibility, Minister Brugge stated. While many are enjoying the festivities, our frontline workers are focused on keeping everyone safe, and their efforts do not always receive the recognition they truly deserve. It is through both the professionalism of our frontline workers and the cooperation of the public that events like Jouvert can take place safely and successfully, he added. I am proud to have stood alongside our frontline teams and to personally thank them for their invaluable service to our community. The Ministry of VSA commends all those involved for contributing to a safe and successful Jouvert morning parade. Minister Plenipotentiary Gracita Arundel, met with representatives of the Aruba National Archives to gather insights and best practices, including experiences in support of establishing a national archive for Sint Maarten. The meeting, which took place during her recent working visit to Aruba, was to focus on practical steps, institutional frameworks, and potential partnerships with cultural and heritage organizations. Discussions also explored funding opportunities and collaboration with international bodies such as UNESCO. Minister Arundel emphasized the importance of building a sustainable national archive to preserve Sint Maarten's history and ensure public access for future generations. The National Archives of Aruba, Arquivo Nacional Aruba, ANA, continues to play a vital role in preserving and protecting the island's documentary heritage, ensuring that Aruba's history remains accessible to present and future generations. Established in August 1994, ANA serves as the official repository for government and historically significant records, including documents, photographs, audio-visual materials, and other archival collections. As the guardian of Aruba's national memory, the institution is responsible for the care, management, and preservation of records that reflect the island's social, cultural, and administrative development over time. ANA provides a wide range of services to the public, researchers, and institutions. These include facilitating access to archival collections, supporting academic and historical research, offering genealogical services for individuals, tracing their family history, and advising government entities on proper records management practices. Through its work, the archives not only safeguards historical information, but also promotes greater public awareness and appreciation of Aruba's rich heritage.
Social and health insurance is your social and health insurances.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
More on public meeting of Parliament to deliberate on the current state of Operational and Sanitary Conditions in Public Schools by the Minister of Education, Melissa Gums.
A comprehensive status review was conducted based on inputs from school management, covering availability of sanitation supplies, status of instructional materials, functionality of equipment, for example, copiers, and the condition of infrastructure and facilities. The current status across the public school system, conditions can be broadly categorized as follows. Schools are operating without major deficiencies, schools are experiencing moderate shortages, operational constraints, and schools require targeted interventions, whether it's from supplies, repairs, or equipment. While the majority of schools remain operational, some have experienced shortages of sanitation supplies, which have since been addressed, non-functional equipment that is currently being repaired or supplied, and maintenance-related issues due to aging infrastructure. Some actions taken to address identified gaps, the ministry has implemented the following measures. Emergency procurement measures, including authorizations for schools to source urgent supplies locally, for example, via Van Dorp, centralized supply orders for sanitation and instructional materials, ongoing repair and servicing of equipment, including copiers and printers, needs-based maintenance interventions for school infrastructure, and preparation of a structured maintenance plan to be tendered publicly. With regards to monitoring and follow-up, school management continues to report needs to the Division of Public Education, confirm receipt of supplies, provide updates on operational status, and then the division will monitor these inputs and coordinate procurement and interventions accordingly. Question 3, why did it take public discussion about shortages before basic sanitary items were delivered to some schools? Respectfully, Madam Chair Lady, it did not. Once it was confirmed that deliveries had been disrupted due to outstanding payments to the supplier, some dating back several years, the ministry acted immediately to facilitate partial payments in good faith to restore the flow of supplies. The public discussion did not trigger action. It coincided with the situation that was already being addressed. What this situation highlights is not a lack of responsiveness, but the impact of long-standing financial and procedural weaknesses. The ministry's approach is therefore twofold: stabilizing the immediate situation and advancing structural improvements to prevent recurrence. Question 4, how are schools currently reporting shortages to the ministry? Is there a formal reporting system? Yes, there is a formal and restructured reporting system in place for schools to report shortages. Schools are required to submit their supply needs using a standardized request form. As part of this process, schools must indicate the specific items being requested, the quantities required, the current stock levels remaining at the school. This ensures that requests are assessed based on actual need and available inventory. School managers are instructed to submit these requests to the Division of Public Education by the 15th of each month. Upon submission, the requests are reviewed and processed by the financial officer within the division, who is responsible for initiating the procurement process. In cases where requests are not submitted within the established timeline, the Division of Public Education may process supplementary requests to ensure that schools are not left without essential supplies. This structured system allows the division to monitor supply levels across schools, plan procurement activities, and respond to shortages in a coordinated and accountable manner. Question 5, can the ministry provide examples proving that schools submitted supply requests late? The ministry does track administrative timelines associated with supply requests as part of its normal operations. However, it would not be constructive to single out individual submissions or attempt to characterize operational challenges through isolated examples. The reality is that supply and procurement processes function as a chain, and delays where they occur are rarely attributable to a single point in the chain. They are influenced by multiple factors, including planning cycles, administrative processing, supplier response, and payment sequencing. For that reason, the ministry's focus is not on attributing fault to any one stakeholder, but on strengthening the overall system so that schools can move more consistently and predictably, rather than engaging in an exercise that may assign blame without improving outcomes. It is also important to clarify that the ministry does not rely on isolated instances to form conclusions. The focus is on understanding system-wide patterns and improving the overall efficiency of the procurement chain, rather than attributing delays to any single actor within that process. Question 6. What is the response time when a school runs out of basic supplies such as toilet paper or disinfectant? The standard administrative processing timeline for the procurement of supplies is approximately 3 months, in accordance with established government administrative and financial procedures. However, it is important to clarify that this reflects the time required to process the order administratively and should not be interpreted as the full delivery timeline in every case. Actual delivery is also dependent on factors such as supplier readiness, stock availability, and prior procurement planning. Where urgent needs arise, these must be addressed within the applicable administrative and financial framework, including, where justified, the use of emergency procurement procedures. The The ministry also continues to emphasize the importance of timely procurement planning in order to reduce the risk of shortages of essential supplies at the school level.
The cooperation in the region, like other islands, will also impact the trend of the Caribbean, when we see and feel. And he's asking how they are going to solve the problem, possibly of bumpering and fuel invoice to a minimum price. So, regarding this question, I would like to look at joint procurement, shared storage, and regional negotiations with suppliers. This includes Aruba, the best islands in St. Martin, and other Caribbean islands. We will have to look at price stabilization mechanisms, strategic reserves, supplier diversification, regional purchasing agreement, and tax adjustments and energy transition timelines. Most islands import fuel from the same supply. Shipping costs rise and fall together, while those who find the disruptions are affected, but affect everyone, according to the Minister of Economic Affairs in the House of Parliament.
The cooperation in the region, as other islands will also be impacted. The trend of the Caribbean, next question by MP Jansen, Webster Jansen, will be seen and felt. MPs asking how they are going to solve the problem, possibly of bunkering and fuel imports to a minimum price. So regarding this question, we would like to look at joint procurement, shared storage, regional negotiations with suppliers. This includes with Aruba, Curacao, and the Best Islands and Saint Martin on the French side, and other Caribbean islands. We would have to look at price stabilization mechanisms, strategic reserves, supplier diversification, regional purchasing agreement, and tax adjustments, and energy transition timelines. Most islands import fuel from the same suppliers. Shipping costs rise and fall together, while refinery disruptions are affects everyone. Can the minister confirm whether goods originated from St. Martin are currently subject to 10% baseline tariffs imposed by the USA? Based on the current information available, the United States has indeed introduced a baseline tariff framework as part of a broader trade policy adjustment in April 2025. St. Martin is not individually targeted, but may fall within the scope of measures applied to certain jurisdictions without specific bilateral trade arrangements. However, it is important to clarify, St. Martin's direct exports of goods to the U.S. are limited. Therefore, any direct impact of such tariffs on our export sector is minimal. Is St. Martin formally listed as a jurisdiction subject for this? And when were they notified? St. Martin is not specifically singled out through a bilateral notification process. Rather, any applicable anything that arises from the general application of the U.S. trade measures following the announcement in the early April 2025. Nothing was announced there. And as a non-sovereign jurisdiction within the kingdom, trade-related developments are typically communicated through broader international and kingdom-level channels rather than through the direct bilateral notification to St. Martin. Has the minister conducted an assessment of a specific good exported from St. Martin to the U.S. that can be affected by this 10% tariff? At this stage, no detailed product-level impact assessment has been prioritized for a very little practical reason. St. Martin's exports of goods to the U.S. are negligible in both volume and value, and as such, the direct economic exposure is minimum. So our focus has therefore been placed on the indirect effects, which are far more relevant to our economy. Has the ministry evaluated whether these tariffs could directly or indirectly affect the cost of the construction materials and retail goods, etc.? Yes, indirectly. While the tariffs do not significantly affect our exports, they can influence global U.S. market pricing, which in turn affects us because many goods we import are sourced from the U.S., and increased costs within the U.S. supply chain can be passed on through pricing and logistics. So this is particularly relevant for construction materials, retail goods, and consumer products with U.S. supply chain links, So the impact is not direct, but it is real through cost transmission and mechanism.
Ongoing efforts to improve cleanliness in Phillipsburg and enhance both the visitor and resident experience are continuing with the phased placement of multifunction garbage bins in key areas across St. Martin's capital, Phillipsburg. The Ministry of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport and Telecommunication procured a total of 80 bins under the 2023 capital expenditures of the national budget, as part of the broader beautification of Phillipsburg initiative. The bins are being introduced in high-traffic locations, including the boardwalk, Front Street, and Back Street, where effective waste management is essential to maintaining a clean, safe, and welcoming environment for all who live, work, and visit the area. As part of the initial phase of the rollout, 23 multifunction bins have been installed along the Phillipsburg boardwalk. The bin placement is part of a coordinated approach to address ongoing cleanliness challenges in Phillipsburg, particularly in zones with high daily foot traffic. In response, Minister Grisha Heiliger-Martin engaged Port St. Martin Group, PSG, to support a temporary servicing arrangement during the peak cruise season, ensuring that priority locations remained properly maintained during periods of increased demand. Phillipsburg is not only the center of our tourism activity, but also a space used daily by residents and businesses, Heiliger-Martin stated. Maintaining a clean and orderly environment is essential to both the visitor experience and the quality of life for our people. This initiative reflects a structured and ongoing effort to raise that standard.
Now for the weather forecast. Today, cloudy with scattered rain showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. Surface winds, today through Wednesday, midday, southeasterly to easterly with a light to moderate breeze at 4 to 14 map, state of the sea. Slight waves and swells 2 to 4 feet. Outlook through Thursday midday, occasionally cloudy with isolated showers. And now your 3-day forecast.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social health insurance.
24th Annual Vaccination Week in the Americas, VWA 2026, and the 15th World Immunization Week, WIW, kicked off April 25th and runs to 2nd May throughout the Americas to prevent childhood diseases under the umbrella of the Pan-American Health Organization, PAHO partner countries, territories of the region, and partners. The theme for the Vaccine Preventable Disease campaign is Your Decision Makes a Difference. Immunization for All. This year, the campaign is once again aligned with the Disease Elimination Initiative, which aims to accelerate the elimination of more than 30 communicable diseases and related conditions by 2030, 11 of which are vaccine-preventable diseases. It also highlights vaccination as an essential strategy for achieving regional goals and avoiding critical setbacks, such as the loss of measles elimination re-verification in the region. This poses a real threat to public health, making it urgent to close immunity gaps and prevent outbreaks in all countries. Collective Prevention Services, CPS, a department within the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, VSA, through its Youth Healthcare, Baby Wellness Clinic, is in solidarity with VWA, WIW activities, and will be hosting several vaccine outreaches throughout the month of May, June, and July. The vaccines are geared towards children 4 to 9 years old who have not yet gotten their vaccine boosters, or children from 2 months to 17 years old who are not up to date with their vaccines. Parents and guardians can bring the children and teenagers to the clinic at the Vineyard Office Park between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. on the following dates: May 16th and June 13th, between 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. May 13th and May 27th, and between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. July 9th. You should also bring along your child's vaccination record. This is our SXM Daily Newscast. Thank you for joining us.